Thank you very much for joining us once again this week for the week that was here on 105.9 The Region. I'm Bob Pritchard, and joining me today,
Shnatelle Fearon.
I'm Shnatelle Fearon.
I'm Shnatelle.
You've got to stick. We're predictable. You got to be predictable,
That's
otherwise
right.
we're in trouble.
I still don't have my drum roll though.
Oh, well, you work on it. A silent drum roll, and you missed it because it was the silent thing was on the mute button.
That's right.
This is our opportunity every week to sit back and look at some of the major news stories that have gone by, maybe talk a little bit about it, give some insight as to our feelings on the background behind it.
Yes.
And there's certainly a pile of interesting stories over the past week. Mm-hmm. Where do you think the number one story would be?
I would say the beheading of the American journalist.
James Foley?
Yes.
I totally agree with you on this one. Why do you think it's significant?
I think it's significant because he was innocent, didn't do anything wrong. He was there doing his job and was murdered. Now, let's back into this slowly. I agree with you on what you're saying, that this is a grotesque act which is just outside of the bounds of North America in every sense of the word. Mm-hmm. But a few facts to keep in mind with this. First of all, yes,
it's one person. They blew up almost 2,000 people in Gaza, little children, women, civilians. They had no idea what was coming. The difference here is in those stories, those 2,000 deaths, all we saw were stretchers with sheets over them being pulled out.
That's true.
Here we have an instance where the individual is murdered in front of everybody.
Everybody, yes.
They're looking at it as an execution, not a murder, the ISIL people.
That's right, yes.
So there's that side to the whole picture. Mm-hmm. I have this feeling that this is a precursor to a much more serious event. And that's why I think it's the top story.
I agree with you.
I feel I'm being manipulated. And whenever I feel I'm being manipulated by the powers that be, I start to worry about what's going on. Mm-hmm. Some of the side things that have happened out of this already, the Americans have acknowledged they put soldiers on the ground in the area.
Yes.
So troops have gone in this situation. Mm-hmm. So is this just a setup for more things to happen?
Yes.
Is there a war coming that we haven't heard about?
Things are going to escalate for sure.
If you go back over the history of war, and let's go back to 100 years ago to the beginning of World War I.
Okay.
There was a whole series of events that happened that were all built up into propaganda.
Okay.
Because if you're going to go to war, there are two things that are inevitable. The first is we're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to buy guns and planes and tanks and ammunition and all that stuff again with it.
Yes.
And we're going to kill people. Mm-hmm. Our people. Some of our people will be killed in this if we should go.
That's right.
So in order to get popular support, governments turn around and come up with some great excuse why we all would want to go over there and do it. If you go back into what happened with Saddam Hussein and that whole situation, the whole thing was weapons of mass destruction.
That's right.
And they were going in, they were going to save us, nuclear weapons were coming our way. It was a horrid event. Mm-hmm. Yet when we went in, beat them up, took over their country, examined every grain of sand that could be found in the region.
Yes.
There was no weapons of mass destruction.
Nothing there. Nothing they could find.
But we had won the war already, so all was good. We even had several victory parties with George W. on the aircraft carrier.
Right.
So here we are again starting to get this information put at us.
Yes.
Do I think that there's a problem here? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know what the net outcome of it's going to be, but even Harper's, talking about this is just like Afghanistan. But hold on now. We've been in there several times already.
Yeah.
So what's the real message?
And now they're threatening to kill another journalist. That's an American journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And eventually, and other things that have happened that didn't make so much news in this whole discussion. The video was taken off the internet. YouTube pulled it.
Oh, yeah.
Scotland Yard has said anybody who watches it could be arrested. I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's what they're saying right now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of backlash that is coming out of this whole thing. Anyway, let's put that behind us. It's an unfortunate event. I think it's much more complicated than has been painted. Mm-hmm. The other story that kind of bothers me a little bit is Karen Stintz quitting the mayor's race.
Okay.
I happen to personally think she's a nice person.
Okay.
I'm not sure that makes her a good politician or not. But,
right.
And when she quit, it was like finding out that mom's quit the whole thing and she's going home.
But are you really surprised, though, at her quitting?
No, I'm disappointed because I like her as a person. Mm-hmm. I think that there's got to be room in our political agenda for ordinary people who are not, and I'm going to say professional politicians.
Okay.
Karen never struck me as being like the prime minister who gives you all these great answers to stuff for the premier or any number of mayors we've had here in Toronto. She was a breath of fresh air, and she's gone.
She's gone.
She's gone home. And the other thing I wanted to say about this, and it's important this time of year.
Okay.
There is no point in your life when you cannot put too much time in with your own children. When you think of all the years she spent being a counselor, being the chair of the TTC, running for mayor, and all of these civic-minded projects.
Yes.
She's got time now to go home and be mom with her kids and build that relationship.
Absolutely.
To me, that's just fabulous.
That's true, yeah. And you have to always try and find a balance when it comes to things like that. So
you have to make the time.
You have to.
There's no point whether you're a new mom with a newborn, if you've had kids who were toddlers, if your kids are in school, if your kids have graduated, or they've got their kids home and you have now time to go and bond with them in this new role in their lives.
Yes.
You always have to have time.
Absolutely.
We're going to put our hankies away now and prepare to enjoy the balance of the weekend.
Yes.
You've been listening to The Week That Was. I'm Bob Pritchard.
And I'm Shnatelle Fearon.
And you're listening to 105.9 The Region.